Hi friends, it's Sunday, May 13th, 2018. In both the Lynn Life and the Jamie Body Mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as they're already living by the many rules given to the Search for Truth community by wiser minds above all of us. And those rules include already contributing more to completing the many assignments given to the Search for Truth community by wiser minds above all of us than any of us as individuals are taking or using or borrowing in Search for Truth resources. As always, our foundational assignment remains to create worlds that work in all dimensions and for all categories of sentience, since that's what our soul contracts commit us to doing. And our current assignment seems to center around re-establishing working interdimensional relationships, particularly between the nature realms, the machine zones, the spirit world, and the host lives involved in all of those dimensions.
That's true.
But now, in order to re-establish working interdimensional relationships, what now? What now? To re-establish working interdimensional relationships in such a way as to create worlds that work in all dimensions and for all categories of sentience, no matter what anyone else does or doesn't do. What now? I can see these channels at the top of what seems to be the wizard's head.
That's true.
And they look kind of like bulb syringes. And he used to have really glorious, beautiful channels, but he pushed himself to a state of really needing to rest, possibly into a state of exhaustion with overwork, and then took a break, and all of that was fine. And I think what might have gone wrong is that he stayed resting too long, because those beautiful channels now look kind of like bulb syringes, kind of pear-shaped.
That's true.
More like a pear than like a bulb syringe, but I think they're trying to come to be shaped like a bulb syringe once more, with that sharp, pointed up look. And what do we know? We know that our channels, our intuitive channels, simply want to find the answers to questions. And this is true for all sentiences in all dimensions. All of us have intuitive channels, that through which our intuition comes.
That's true.
And the channels simply go in search of answers to the questions that we are asking. And if we are not being very curious, if we're having a stage of life in which we're not feeling much curiosity about anything, then our intuitive channels start to look more like balls of fat, lumps of lard, than anything else, because they're not being exercised at all.
That's true.
They just look like a big fat ball.
Yes.
And as we begin to ask questions, they start to look a little bit pear-shaped, pointing in the direction that we're asking our questions.
That's true.
And then as we continue to ask questions upward, not outward, upward, the pear-shaped channel begins to elongate into what looks kind of like a bulb syringe. And we see that the wizard's channels are in between those two settings.
That's true.
This might be a Ra who's talking. It feels very much like somebody explaining a situation to possibly a class.
That's true.
Or a team. I don't know who he's explaining it to, but I can see this Ra explaining what we see here, and he's got a picture of the wizard's channels up on kind of like a whiteboard or something like that, and he's explaining it. This is what has created this situation. And he's just talking about channels, intuitive channels, in a very academic tone.
Yes, that's true.
What now? To reestablish a working, interdimensional relationship between all aspects of the spirit world and all aspects of the nature realms and machine zone as well. What now? Someone is tapping the pencil point on this topic of Germany.
That's true.
And of what fundamentally was Germany's error. What was the underlying error of a society that, if we look at it objectively, is actually a superior society. German society has much about it that is superior to other societies available in this dimension, on this planet, in this species.
That's true.
And the foundational error seems to have been bigotry.
That's true.
We see this error being played out in many levels of the spirit world as well. The Vinavanavs, sadly, are tainted with this error of bigotry, and the Christ presences are tainted with selfishness and laziness and also bigotry.
That's true.
And the nature realms are tainted with selfishness and not so much laziness, but selfishness and bigotry. Bigotry seems to be everywhere, and it
That's
gives
true.
rise to lying, cheating, stealing, bullying, corruption, lots of unhelpful patterns.
That's true.
Why do you ask? What now to heal bigotry? What now to break the cycles of bigotry in all dimensions? Possibly this person is saying, this higher presence is answering our question. We asked a question, what now to reestablish working interdimensional relationships? And this presence is pointing to bigotry as if arrows are coming from many different angles and saying, here's your problem right here, this bigotry, which is playing out from many, many, many wonderful presences.
That's
This
true.
bigotry is your problem. And he's showing a lineup of all these beautiful souls with whom we've had the honor to work for many years, and sadly find one who isn't tainted by bigotry. See if you can find any who isn't tainted by bigotry. Pan has very little bigotry.
That's true. Very little.
He'll be the standard to beat. Find somebody. Asha has very little bigotry.
Very little.
Well, Ra, it's his big hurdle.
That's
what
true.
Ra stumbles over, and the wizard might stumble over it almost equally.
That's true.
What now? What now? To reestablish working interdimensional relationships in such a way as to create worlds that work in all dimensions and for all categories of sentience, since that's what our soul contracts commit us to doing. What now?
They're talking about bigotry again.
Yes. And they're talking about it in a way that seems to have some element of acknowledging all of you guys are really bigoted, and why I have a hair of the dog as well.
Yes, that's the feeling.
I can see the bigotry. And how are we all exactly like this? We can see our error patterns in others, and we can tell we have a little of it, but we don't realize that we're exactly like
the same.
Yes, exactly. So how am I exactly like this? Well, I see how I tend to forget how miraculous the abilities of other species are, like forgetting
That's true.
that
That was
ants
what they were talking
can
about.
see in both light and dark. Clearly
That's
they
true.
can see in both light and dark, and that's astounding. And while this body-mind has good night vision,
That's true.
it can't see in perfect dark. It has good night vision. And I, the presence who am speaking, I know that I don't have that quality. I have what somebody calls an uncanny ability to shine the light on topics, whoever is speaking.
That's true.
But I can't see in the dark. I have the ability to generate light and shine the light on topics.
That's true.
That's different than seeing in the dark. It isn't the same skill.
No, that's true.
Whoever the speaker is, he's very well aware of his ability to shine the light on topics and of his inability to see in the dark.
That's true.
And so he is now feeling the idea that it's bigotry that causes him to value his skill of shining a light over the other skill of seeing in the dark.
Oh.
And he's realizing that, and he's kind of sitting back and saying, goodness, I see that I have bigotry. I do.
That's true.
Very surprising.
It's very surprising.
Shocking, really. Pan somewhere is talking about how helpful it can be to see in the dark so that one can see what one needs to be seeing without drawing attention to oneself.
That's true.
I can see how that would be a very useful skill, one that I would like to learn. I would really like to learn that. All of a sudden, I feel what might be a shift in bigotry. Shift out of a stance of bigotry in that one limited little situation. Whereas always before I thought I must be superior because I have this ability to shine the light on topics. Now I start to think maybe it would be superior to be able to see things clearly while in total darkness. Maybe I've been wrong all along. Maybe it hasn't been better to be able to shine the light. Maybe it would be better to be able to see in total darkness. And then maybe would be able to keep my head while those around me are losing theirs, which is a quote about what it means to be an adult. A Rudyard Kipling quote.
That's true.
An adult can keep his or her head while the world around him or her has gone crazy. That's what an adult is, and to be able to see in total darkness probably would be a requirement of remaining an adult, meaning somebody who takes responsible action on behalf of the greater good. That's what it is to be an adult, to take responsible, effective, or well-intentioned action on behalf of the greater good. Selfless, courageous actions on behalf of the greater good, doing what the situation actually calls for as the intention, and messing it up, bumbling our way along until something is achieved. And how helpful it would be to be able to see in total darkness, to keep our wits about us, focused on survival of the truth, what's really going on, and what the situation actually calls for. That would be extremely helpful. We see it now. Does anything matter more than survival of the truth? And now just squish those bulb syringe channels. Whoever they belong to, what difference does it make? Those channels are right here, right in the crown. Quite clearly they are relevant to these collections of presence. Yes?
Yes.
Can you find those bulb syringe
Oh, yeah.
channels? Yes, and just squish them up and burn what's coming out of it, because it's not true.
It's true.
And use that flame to shoot a light, create a tall blue flame, as if to say to those in higher dimensions, even higher dimensions, we're here and we're intending to figure out what's actually going on. We think bigotry is a big problem, and we think
That's
we all
true.
have it, and we all have it in ways that we aren't aware of.
That's true.
Unless we're aware we're a bigot, which is a whole different level of challenge. But if you feel these wonderful souls who parade through the Search for Truth community, and they all have bigotry, Pan and Asha the least possibly.
That's true.
But they're not free of it. It's still there to some extent.
That's true.
Every single one of them has it, and they're all wonderful. These are wonderful, wonderful souls.
That's true.
And bigotry is there, and none of them think of themselves as bigots, and they would be probably, many of them, highly offended.
That's true.
But it's there, the bigotry is there. Just as with good Germans.
Whoa. Now there's a much higher room in view.
Hi. What now? To reestablish working interdimensional relationships so as to create worlds that work in all dimensions and for all categories of sentience inside of those dimensions. What now? Wow, so quiet.
So quiet.
So quiet. Let's tune to, I don't know, what's the opposite of bigotry? Well, we can tune to reduce bigotry, kind of like dialing down the bigotry. Maybe we could just find the bigotry dials and dial them to lower settings.
I feel dials.
I find bigotry dials. Just keep turning them lower. Just keep dialing down the bigotry. For all of us. For all of us. And maybe it's time to start the truth and reconciliation processes once more. When we dial down our bigotry, hopefully all of us can see actions that we have taken that we are no longer proud of.
That's true.
That we can now see were in fact misguided actions, inflamed by bigotry, actions propelled by bigotry.
That's true.
Not by what the situation actually calls for. I myself would like to learn, whoever is speaking, I myself would like to learn how to see in perfect darkness.